In this video, we're going to show you the simple 401k withdrawal timing strategy that can extend your portfolio's longevity by a decade, and how starting small systemic withdrawals during low income years helps you avoid the high bracket withdrawals that force many retirees to draw their savings faster than they expected. You see, most people assume their biggest retirement risk comes from the stock market, inflation, or choosing the wrong investments. But in reality, the risk that affects more retirees than any of those factors is withdrawal timing. This isn't about loopholes or complicated maneuvers. It's about understanding how taxes, required minimum distributions, and market risk interact with each other once you stop working, and how one misunderstood timing decision can quietly shorten a retirement by years. And that's exactly why we're making this video today, to show you the withdrawal timing mistake that silently shortens retirement, the early withdrawal strategy that extends longevity, why early withdrawals can actually improve long-term growth, and the comprehensive framework that ties it all together. Let's get right into it. Before we talk about what to do, you need to understand the invisible mistake that quietly shortens more retirements than market volatility, inflation, or bad investment choices. For decades, the standard advice has been delay taking money from your tax-deferred accounts for as long as possible. Let the balance grow, avoid paying taxes now, and wait until the IRS forces your hand. It sounds logical and it sounds responsible, but for many retirees, this approach leads to an outcome that they never intended and often don't realize until it's too late. You see, when you delay tax-deferred withdrawals until age 73, those accounts often reach their largest balances at the exact moment the IRS begins requiring you to take those distributions. And because those required distributions are calculated as a percentage of your tax-deferred balance, the result is forced withdrawals that are far larger than most retirees anticipate. For households with $1 to $2 million or more in tax-deferred savings, initial RMDs commonly fall between $50,000 to $100,000 per year, depending on balance size and market performance. But these withdrawals are not optional. They don't adjust because the market's down. They don't adjust because you're trying to manage your tax brackets. And they don't adjust because you have other sources of income. They are required and they have to be taken. The Financial Planning Association highlights the volatility of RMD-driven withdrawals. Because RMDs fluctuate year to year based on market performance, retirees may be forced to withdraw more during periods of poor returns, a pattern that sharply increases their risk of early portfolio depletion. Delaying tax-deferred withdrawals until age 73 or your RMD age doesn't just postpone taxes, it concentrates them. It creates income spikes, it pushes retirees into higher marginal tax brackets, and it forces large withdrawals during market downturns when selling can be most harmful. This is why retirees who follow the wait as long as possible approach might see their portfolios run out 8 to 12 years earlier than they would if they had a proactive early withdrawal strategy. So if deferring tax-deferred withdrawals until 73 creates the problem, the next question is obvious, right? What should you do instead? And this is where most people are shocked by the answer. One of the most effective ways to extend the life of a retirement portfolio is simply to just start withdrawing from your tax-deferred accounts earlier, typically sometime between the ages of 60 and 72. Even if you don't need that income yet. We'll get into need in a moment here. Again, not large withdrawals, not irregular withdrawals, just small, steady, systematic withdrawals in the range that could typically fall between $20,000 to $40,000 a year, depending on your income and tax situation, right? Why does this work? These early withdrawals begin to reshape your tax-deferred balance before you get to that required minimum distribution age. Again, you're not to reduce your savings, but to reduce the amount of required distributions that the IRS is going to impose later. And research from Schwab highlights this approach as an effective way to reduce future RMD pressure and lower lifetime taxes, particularly during these low-income retirement years. For many retirees, that early to mid-60s represent tax valley years. It's a period where employment income has stopped, Social Security income may not have started, pension income can be deferred, and your RMDs have not begun. These low taxable income years are a strategic window that often goes unused. And to be clear, starting early withdrawals doesn't mean that you're increasing your spending. In many cases, retirees simply reposition these dollars, building cash reserves, reinvesting in taxable accounts, or using that window for potential Roth conversions. The purpose here isn't to spend more money than you need, but to recognize income in a more controlled, tax-efficient way over the length of your retirement. By drawing modest, intentional amounts from tax-deferred accounts during this time, you keep yourself in lower tax brackets, reduce the size of future RMDs, smooth or flatten your lifetime tax rate, and avoid a massive income spike at age 73. But the tax impact is what amplifies the benefit, and that tax advantage is what most retirees never hear about. It's the part of the strategy that makes the biggest long-term difference here. When most people think about retirement income, they focus on where the money comes from. Just as important, and sometimes more important, is when that income appears on your tax return. Starting withdrawals before your RMD age allows you to intentionally fill lower tax brackets now so you don't get pushed into higher ones later. So if you wait until age 73 or your RMD age, Social Security benefits are already turned on, other income sources may be active, and the IRS is adding a large RMD on top of that. This combination doesn't just push retirees into higher tax brackets, it frequently triggers two additional problems. Number one, more of your Social Security becomes taxable. Large RMDs increase combined income, often causing retirees to have up to 85% of their Social Security benefits taxed, even though nothing about their actual lifestyle spending has changed. And two, it could trigger higher Medicare IRMA surcharges. Crossing IRMA thresholds due to large RMD-driven income spikes increases your premiums for Medicare's Part B and D. These surcharges reduce your net income and create expenses that many retirees never actually planned for. Both of these tax consequences reduce your net retirement income while still accelerating depletion of your tax-deferred accounts. This is why early withdrawal bracket management is so powerful, because it flattens your lifetime tax curve, prevents bracket creep, and it reduces the compounding impact of Social Security taxation and IRMA penalties. Morningstar, Schwab, and the Financial Planning Association all highlight that same principle. Retirees who recognize income intentionally during these low-income years often see a dramatic improvement in long-term withdrawal sustainability. So if you're hearing this and you're wondering the best way to structure your withdrawal strategy, click the link below and request a personalized retirement video created specifically for your situation. Going back to bracket management, that's only half of the benefit here, right? The other half affects the one thing that retirees fear most, being forced to withdraw more than they need. The IRS doesn't care about your market conditions, tax planning goals, or how much income you actually want to take. They calculate your RMDs based on a formula, a percentage of your tax-deferred balance. And those RMDs need to be taken every single year once you hit your retirement age. This creates a problem that retirees often underestimate. RMDs can force you to withdraw more than your portfolio can safely support. When RMDs are large, retirees are required to sell investments even when the markets are down. That forced selling accelerates depletion, locks in losses, and shrinks the base that future growth depends on. This is the heart of sequence of returns risk. It's not volatility itself that causes the permanent damage. It's withdrawing too much during periods of poor performance. Here's the advantage of reducing your RMDs early. When you take small controlled withdrawals between those ages of 60 and 72, you are gradually reducing the size of your future distributions. A smaller balance at age 73 means a smaller dollar amount of RMDs for every year that follows. And the benefits compound. That's less forced selling, lower income spikes, reduced tax exposure, less risk of triggering higher Social Security taxation, better protection during down markets, and a more stable long-term withdrawal path. By proactively drawing down tax-deferred balances before age 73, it can materially reduce the size of future RMDs, which again gives you more control over those taxes and market exposure. And here's where almost every retiree gets blindsided. That surprising part, withdrawing earlier can actually lead to more long-term growth. Let me explain why. Most people assume that taking money out earlier automatically reduces growth potential. And that's a reasonable assumption, but it doesn't account for how retirement distributions truly affect long-term performance. Growth in retirement isn't determined only by how much you keep invested. It's determined by whether you're able to keep your investments working through recovery years, when compounding historically has some of the largest impact. Large forced RMDs disrupt this. If you have to withdraw a fixed percentage of your balance each year, you might be forced to sell investments at precisely the wrong time. During downturns, locking in losses and reducing the number of shares that participate in the recovery, but early withdrawals help prevent this by reducing future RMD spikes, allowing more of your portfolio to remain invested when markets rebound. This isn't just theoretical. Morningstar, Vanguard, and the Financial Planning Association all highlight versions of the same principle. Retirees who avoid large forced withdrawals during down markets tend to maintain higher equity exposure through the recovery periods, which is one of the primary drivers of long-term retirement success. Schwab's data aligns with this as well, showing that smoothing out future withdrawals allows greater participation in market recoveries and reduces sequence of returns risk. Across many planning scenarios, avoiding forced withdrawals during down years results in a 20 to 30% more total lifetime wealth, largely because more of the portfolio remains invested through the most productive compounding periods. Once the timing advantages are clear, the next step is applying them through a structured, repeatable withdrawal framework. And this is where people run into trouble, not because the concepts itself is complicated individually, but because you have to work together with everything in the right sequence. The framework starts with understanding your portfolio income needs, or your PIN, as we like to say. And that's the amount of income required each year to support the lifestyle you need, minus any guaranteed expenses. So this is what you have to pull out of your portfolio. And every withdrawal decision needs to be coordinated around this number. From there, the strategy is evaluated each year to find out where you should be taking that income from. Again, taxable accounts, tax-free accounts, or tax-deferred accounts. Once the annual positioning is identified, 3 ongoing disciplines guide implementation. Number 1, annual tax modeling. This includes evaluating bracket space, IRMA thresholds, Social Security timing, and whether partial Roth conversions fit this year's income profile. The goal is to avoid unintended tax bracket jumps that quietly increase your lifetime taxes. Number 2, RMD projection tracking. Again, this involves forecasting required distributions from now through age 90 to 95 to confirm whether your early withdrawals are meaningfully reducing your future RMD pressure or if other adjustments are needed. And 3, market-based adjustments. In strong market years, that framework may call for slightly larger withdrawals to lock in some gains. In weak years, it might call for reducing or pausing some discretionary withdrawals to avoid selling during downturns. And this is also the point where decisions are made about where early withdrawal dollars should go. Some retirees use this income to build cash reserves for future stability. Others reinvest it through taxable accounts so that the dollars remain invested. And for others, the early retirement window becomes the most effective time for partial Roth conversions because income is lower and tax bracket space is available. Again, the goal isn't to increase spending. It's to structure income recognition, tax efficiency, and RMD reduction in a way that increases flexibility, protects compounding, and helps retirement savings last longer overall. And when these elements work together, again, your PIN calculation, your framework, tax modeling, and your RMD projections, the result is a withdrawal strategy that consistently supports an extra 10 to 15 years of additional portfolio sustainability in real-world scenarios. Remember, retirement success isn't just about investments. It's about coordinating income timing, tax efficiency, RMD control, and your ability to stay invested through the most productive years of market growth. If you want clarity on how these strategies apply to your retirement situation, you can request a personalized retirement video created specifically for your situation. Simply click on the link below and request your video. Till next time, take care.